No, girl, Whitney, hold on. I'm gonna need you to hold on to your chair for this one. I took the post-it off, and it was somebody else's name that was written and crossed off, and they put my name over it. When I tell you, in that exact moment, I literally said, "Fuck this shit."
Repeat after me. I bring more than diversity, I bring irreplaceable perspectives. Hey, friends, my name is Whitney, and I'm the host of Impostrix podcast, the show that validates professionals of color navigating imposter syndrome and racial toxicity in their career. Join us and be validated. You got this. So, welcome back to Impostrix podcast. I am joined today by my friend Shou, who is
Yay.
a fellow podcaster. I've been on her show
Yes.
now twice. The
Nice.
show's called Shou Talks.
Yes.
I always have a great time talking to her. It always just kind of turns into something, turns into like fun times. Like, I don't even
Girl.
know how to describe
'Cause
it,
we're
but
kindred spirits.
exactly. So, I'm happy to have her on. Shou, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for having me, Whitney. She's right. She has been on my podcast twice, and there is more coming because, like I said, we are kindred spirits. But hello, everybody. My name is Shou. I have a podcast named Shou Talks. Honestly, I call myself not your typical podcaster because I just like to talk to people. I like to learn. I love hearing about what everybody's doing in their life, but more importantly, I like to learn how we millennials or even the Gen Zs sometimes, but mostly Gen X too, are navigating through life and just trying to figure it out. I'm very happy to be here. I am a career student by life. um, and I'm just here to have this conversation. Well, I'm happy to have this conversation is what I mean to say. Oh, I am a mom
Awesome.
and, I have a wife. The two first things I should have probably said is first, but
Right, well, and you're
and I
Haitian.
am Haitian. I am Haitian American. Both parents are directly from Haiti. I was born here, but I like to tell everybody that I'm Haitian because growing up, all my summers were spent in Haiti. So, what else am I missing?
Mm,
I don't even know. Well, it'll come out as we speak because that's what we do.
bodybuilding. Okay, so
Yes.
what do you do for, like, your hobby and your work?
Okay. So, oh Lord, hobby. Right now, hobby is my working out. I am working on bodybuilding. I literally told my husband because I told him, well, whenever we have the next child, I'm having a mommy makeover because trying to lose weight is for the birds. And then I said, you know what? I literally, those are my words. And my husband is a gym rat. So I knew that would annoy him.
Oh.
And he was just like, do whatever you want. And I was like, oh, you didn't even fight? Like, what? But then I randomly one day just had a vision where I was just like, let's see if I can transform my body on my own without having to go under. It's still in the back of my mind though, because I did my research, found price points and all of that. But I have embarked on this journey of bodybuilding. I'm giving myself, however, at this point, 2 years um, to get up on the nutrition because I did learn a big part of it is nutrition and what you're eating. That's about 80% of the work. So I'm giving myself this year to get pregnant, have a baby, drop it. I mean, I'm running out of time because we're already about to. I know I'm working on it. It's just
I was gonna say, okay, but I'll let you
listen.
finish and
I'm
then
I'm
I'll
telling God. I've
comment.
been talking to God like God, hurry up. Like I said this year, and then focus on nutrition, and then next year we will focus on like transforming my body. I have a coach who I've already gotten in touch with. We've been working together since November 2023, and I'm recording my progress mainly for the fact of when I started looking up YouTubers or vloggers who bodybuild, I did not find any black women um, that even had my figure or anything like that. A lot of times, for starters, you will find people who are already super fit doing bodybuilding. So I kind of had, I guess, two disadvantages if you think about it. I couldn't find anybody that looked like
Mhm.
me, anybody of color who was bodybuilding. You'll find fitness influence everywhere. Every day, a new fitness influencer is coming up. However, bodybuilding, which I've learned is its own different world. And I did not
Mhm.
find any. And if there are, and they happen to listen to this podcast, please come find me because I'm still learning. And then also, like I said, the second part was just a lot of these people who go into bodybuilding are already fit. They've already got the six pack, so now they're just toning up. So I want to document this entire journey. God willing, I get pregnant and it happens. I want a body. I'm still going to train through that. So I want to document that so that the next woman of color who decides they want to just start this journey from scratch, being over 200 pounds, they have that inspiration and they can have some type of guidance.
And that was my like, the being pregnant part. I don't okay, so we're both women,
Yes.
Black women, and weight, of course, is a thing for most women.
Hmm.
And for Black women, in my experience, it's kind of a weird like, there is a celebration of thickness and curves and all of that
Hmm.
stuff, but we're also, like, fighting against the supermodel ideal of whiteness
Right.
and, like, super duper skinny and, all of these
Right.
things, and it's just a weird dichotomy because at the same time that we're all trying to be super skinny or whatever,
Hmm.
we're also seeing people augment their bodies to be more like our
Yes.
bodies.
Yes.
Um and so for me though, my pregnancies were always they were the times where I didn't have to think about my weight.
Hmm.
But then after the pregnancy, it's always like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
like this
Girl.
was not the body that I came into here
Child.
with. I don't know what to do about this. I don't know what do I need to tell myself to make myself feel better?" And almost the pressure that I felt to get back to try frankly, this is the pressure that I still live with,
Mhm.
is the pressure to be back in my pre-mom body,
I don't even know where
which
mine
is
went.
not
Mm.
I mean, mine is long, long, long,
It,
long
it said
gone.
peace out. Like, just like, leave me alone.
So, I love hearing you talk about
Yeah.
this because I think it's necessary for me
Hmm.
to learn about really just
Yeah.
acceptance of the body that I'm in and celebration of what my body can do, but at the same time, acceptance doesn't look like eating whatever I want whenever I want and, like, not taking care of my body, which is basically the 2, like, polar opposites that I live
Yes.
in is where, like, I love my body and I'm taking care of my body and I'm starving because I'm eating all of this healthy stuff that
Girl.
doesn't fill me up, or I don't care, love who I
I am who
am,
I am.
and I'm eating whatever I want, and then I feel like shit because like, my body, like, I physically feel like shit.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
it's a struggle.
so I like yeah, it is a struggle. I like the bodybuilding component because I'm as a former athlete, like, I was really into lifting weights specifically.
Mm.
Like, exercise for me was never about a weight
Right.
or being skinny or having a certain body type. It was about getting my body in optimum shape to be able to compete in the sport,
Yeah.
and I think bodybuilding, it's really interesting just hearing you talk about it because it's not a sport that I think of as, like, the getting skinny. In
Right.
fact, like, that's not
No.
the thing.
Yeah.
The thing is building muscle and, like, getting the aesthetic that you want, but as far as body strength and
Yeah.
muscle, and so I'm really interested, and I look forward when you announce this on your Instagram. I
Oh,
was like, "Yes, I really look forward to seeing the transformation."
thank you.
Because I know it's gonna be
Well,
amazing.
I'll give you an exclusive because this is airing. You said later on in the month. Actually, I'm pregnant. Right.
What?
Yes. Thank you. I'm
Congratulations.
still in my first trimester, so I haven't put anything on social media. But like, I was like, oh wait, she's not
Yeah,
posting
yeah, yeah.
anytime soon. But so I am. Girl. I sit here and I'm like, and my coach is aware of it. I haven't even had a ultrasound yet, but I've been calling all the doctors. I'm doing all the research because there's a
Mhm,
lot of things where they tell you there are certain supplements you can't take, but there are no studies on like protein shakes.
mhm.
Like nothing has a study that can say, oh, it's going to be harmful to you in your pregnancy. And it's like, okay, well, can I do it or can I not do it? Or like
Yeah, yeah,
everybody that I've been hearing all the research is always listen to your body, listen to your body. So I'm grateful that this is not my first pregnancy because at least now I have something to go off of. But girl, like you said, it's
yeah.
hard because sometimes we say like, is this a craving? Maybe I should just drink water. Did I hit my macros today? Do I need to? It's hard. But it's not impossible. We're gonna find the strength, and like I said, it's a journey that I haven't seen anybody do. Um, and so I kind of just hope to document it, not just for me, well, not just for other people too, but for me to kind of just see that I can do it. I was never an athlete. I was always being
Mm,
raised in a Haitian household, I was always told the woman's place is in the kitchen.
mm,
My mom was, she had a disability, so she didn't necessarily work. But I grew up. Granted, all the women in my family are like big dick energy. Like it's like my husband and I struggle
mm,
at times because I have to let him. I have to remind myself, you don't have to lead. He's here to do that. But I grew up
mhm,
in a household
mhm,
where it was majority women because my parents divorced eventually, and I'm always used to seeing women in charge. However, I was always told you're a woman in charge, but you need to cook. Like that's your priority. You need to know how to cook, know how to clean, keep a man. Like those are your top three goals, and then you can worry about
mm,
having a job. Like that was what was
mm.
embedded in me growing up. I don't even remember what the question was at this point, but yes,
Well, we were just talking about
yes.
bodybuilding and bodies and bodybuilding through pregnancy,
Hmm.
and I think, maybe that this is an area where what you are doing will help bring awareness to the lack of information that there
Yes.
is around, like, female
Yeah.
bodybuilders who are dealing with hormones, who are dealing with pregnancy, who are dealing with other aspects of their hormones. I mean, I think this would be really interesting. You should join, Tanya with Tea with Tanya podcast
Okay.
and talk about the health. So that podcast is about like it's about health
Hmm.
in general, but she's narrowing down, I think, to like maternal health
Okay.
and women's health.
Okay.
And I don't think this is an episode subject that I've heard yet,
Okay. Yeah. No, we'll
specifically around bodybuilding because, like you said, there is all sorts of fitness stuff.
everywhere.
Like
Everywhere you
talk
turn.
about women's fitness, right? But yeah, this is a sport in and of
Yeah.
itself, and so, and I really like the idea of exercising for the purpose of, like, building
Hmm.
muscle and building
Yeah.
strength and not for
Just
being
weight loss.
skinny.
Yeah.
And right, as long as I can remember, well, no, that's not true. Um, but I'll say, like, in my adulthood,
Yeah.
especially post babies, um, at the point where I'm no longer playing sports, like, exercising is no longer about optimum
Nope.
body, like, I don't know, function.
Right.
It's about weight
Yeah.
loss, and I like the reframe, like, I haven't even thought about just exercising to be able to move my body better,
Yeah.
like, I've not thought about that in such a long time, and so I like that reframe and the
Or
reminder,
to
and I
keep
love that this is something you're
or
doing.
to keep up with the babies. Because I think a
Mm,
lot of, especially, just a quick thing on, especially Black women in maternal health, like we are so overlooked. Like we are so overlooked. And what I've learned in my last pregnancy is like, you got to advocate for yourself, like do all of your research, do everything you can. So with me embarking on this new bodybuilding journey, and there already are no studies on it, and taking supplements, like I really got to put in the work and find out what I can have, what I can't have. Why are they saying I can't have certain things? Like there are things I will read. I'm like, oh, you can't have too much vitamin A. Why? But they're not telling you why.
mhm.
They're just like, oh, it can be harmful. What's harmful about it? So now I have to do that extra layer of work. So it's very important for us to advocate, not just for ourselves, but for our babies, and to actually kind of get the truth out. Like the society we used to live in was so opaque. I think that's the right word. Where it was, you were told not to do something. Girl, I don't have my vocabulary is not that great, but we gonna make it work. I think we've come into a time where transparency is becoming more normal. We're normalizing transparency, whereas in the past you were just told not to do something and no one fought back and asked why we can't do it. So I think now we're living in a time where people are like, well, why can't I do it? What actually will happen? And people are going, what do you mean, why can't you? Well, why? What happens? Like what happens if I do it? So I think it's great that we're living in that time, and we are the generation to push against that.
Yeah, absolutely. This reminds me, so one of the topics that I've been toying with is this topic of, like, what it means to be a good employee
Mm,
and the myth of being a good employee,
mm,
really.
mhm.
Um, and that I've struggled with that in adulthood,
Yes.
but also, potentially even, my first jobs and in college, because I've never been the person to just take direction
Mhm.
and, like, be okay with it. Like, for some reason, and it's not always good because,
Right.
I be asking questions as if I think I know better, and,
Well,
I
sometimes
don't.
you do, you never know.
Sometimes I do,
Mhm.
but in every situation, I do not. But what does matter to me is that there is a reason for this rhyme,
Right,
like, that we're not just going through the motions because that's how we've done it forever,
right.
um, in recognition that things
Yeah.
change. Like, we discover better tactics, we discover better, formulas, better routes, we advance and develop, and so has there been any kind of advancement in this process? Like, I mean, and it can be as little as I used to work at Auntie Anne's
Ooh,
Pretzels, and it
child,
could
I
be as
love
little
them.
how we
Mhm.
can roll these pretzels, to as big as, what advocacy techniques are we using to get people out of prison?
Mm.
I'm always asking questions, and over this past, couple of years, I've felt a bit of insecurity, but also feeling ostracized in some
Mm.
ways around my question asking,
Mm.
um, as if my wanting to better understand what's happening around me was a bad thing because I was not just taking direction and then going and doing my job.
Yeah.
And I think it was you and I that talked about this on your show about, like, just figuring out how to let go of some of the myth of what this good employee needs to look
Yeah.
like, for us as women of color in particular, who are coming from families where, and
Yeah.
cultures, really, not even, like, family specific, cultures where, like, we need to follow the direction because we should be grateful that we have this job, and if we're not gonna follow the direction, they're gonna fire us, and then we're gonna be good for nothing because we're not gonna have a stable job.
And they gonna hire
Um
somebody and pay them way less and save them money, so they will not hesitate to get rid of you. Yep, that was us.
Right.
Yes, we did have that conversation.
Yeah.
Mhm. Triggered.
Exactly. So, like, it's just been, so I wanna do a whole episode on, like, good employee versus bad employee because I think it's something that we need to unlearn, and
Yeah,
it's something that I've been coming to terms with about myself
yeah,
is that, like, if I needed to call myself good or bad, then I'd probably say that I'm a bad employee. Like, I'm not the one that you wanna hire to just go do your thing and, like, go home.
yeah.
Like, that's not I'm gonna be on all the committees. You're gonna know my opinions. You're gonna get the emails with the questions. I'm gonna be asking questions during the
Be
meetings.
prepared.
Like, that's right. Exactly. So, anyways, I got off track. What do you do for work?
I was actually gonna go off of what you were gonna say, but okay. So I'll say what I do for
Oh,
work and then
go ahead.
jump in because I love what you just said. So I actually work in legal operations for a pharmaceutical company. And I love what you said about, well, I was actually the opposite. I kind of still am. Um, I was the opposite of you at working when I first started working. I was I'm just going to take instruction, do what I got to do. And I never pushed back. I didn't ask questions, even if something didn't seem right to me, because not only just, having a job, but I also have had immigrants' parents who would always be like, listen, our future is in your hand. So you're now the one going to work. So make sure you have a job because you got to take care of all of us for the rest of our lives. So I was always the one who would do whatever. I went above and beyond. I had my name known in the sense of, oh, just go to Shou will get it done. And not realizing I was setting myself up for being the sucker at work because
Mm,
I would just get everybody's workload and people were free and gallivanting. And when I did see people push back or ask questions, I'm like, you questioned the boss about why you have to do it this way? What do you mean? Like, just do it the way they told you to. And he'll be like, no. Or people taking days off. I remember I had a job somewhere where I never took vacation. I never took vacation. I was in the office by 6 a.m. because I wanted to get all my work done. I didn't leave till like almost 7 or 8. Actually, there was one day I remember leaving, it was close to midnight. And I remember because my now husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, he worked at a nightclub a couple blocks away. And I remember just saying, I'll just go to your car when I finish getting this project done and just sleep in the car till you get out of work. And I remember I left work, it was like 11:30, and I'm walking through downtown Boston, and I got into his car, and I literally, it was winter too. And I remember just getting to, like, I had a blanket and everything. And every day for like a good 2, 3 weeks. Whereas people are coming in and out, our, our white counterparts, half-ass working, never getting like even so much as written up. Whereas I'm over here struggling to have my name be known by people as, oh, Shou's the one that I can go to, Shou I can rely on. No, it was Shou's the sucker who's gonna do all the work and be paid less than everybody else because she just needs a job.
Mm,
Child. Ooh, we're not in those
damn.
days anymore because now I do speak up. And now I am like, this doesn't make any sense. Is there a better way to do it? We can find a better way to do it. I do struggle at times. I do think that it is a ever evolving learning process. I do have moments where if I'm having a conversation with someone and they're like, well, what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate? Like, why do we have to do it this way? And I'm like, why are you questioning me? I told you to do it this way because I said
I
so.
can question everybody, but you can't question
Okay,
me.
don't ask me questions because I did my research. Do what I tell you to do. But it's true. Like, I think, and in all honesty, as much as I make fun of Gen Zs, I do have to owe this to them because I think they have opened the doors for pushing back and saying, no, this is what I worth. This is what I'm worth. This is what I want. This is what needs to happen, or else I will go somewhere else. I think they have really been and of course, if you're like me, you make fun of them. You're like, y'all entitled little brats. Like, just be happy you have a job. But no,
Hmm.
if you, in hindsight, you look at what they're doing, it's like, no, they are setting themselves up to be valued where they believe they're valued. Whereas we come from a generation where it was like, you have a job, so you're valued. Who cares how much they're paying? You have a job, you're valued. And it's like, no, it's not how this world is.
Well, and along those lines, the generational differences that we all experience in the workplace are quite, significant.
Yes.
And we're talking, the differences also that we experience as people of color.
Right.
So I've recently, worked with someone who was trying to understand. She was, what's the generation before millennials? What are they called?
Gen X.
Okay, so she was a Gen Xer and had like either a millennial or a Gen Zer. I think it was a Gen Zer
Hmm.
come to her, basically complaining about or venting about the way that a manager told her to do a task. And the person that I was talking to, the Gen Xer, was like, but like, this is just her job. Like, I don't understand what is there to complain about.
Yeah.
The manager told her to do something, you know? And so I'm here, like, in the middle of these generations, right? Millennial. And I'm like, well, I will say, I don't want to be told to do anything.
Right.
Like, I wanna be requested, I wanna be asked, I want my input, like, I want to feel as though I have a
Right.
say, especially if this thing that's being asked isn't something that's spelled out,
Mhm.
in my job description.
Mhm.
So, for example, I may be a staff attorney, but if now all of a sudden I need to train interns and that is not in my job description, then I don't want an email that says, "Hey, Whitney, this person is starting on this day, go train them."
Yeah.
Like, I need the email to say, "Hey, Whitney, we've got this person coming into the office. It would be so great if you could train them. Would you mind doing that for us?" And, you know, letting me feel some kind of autonomy
Let
to
me
say
say
now if I
yes or
say no
no.
and you say, "But"
Yeah.
right, right. And I might say no and they might say, "Well, but actually that wasn't a question." Like, but we wanna be included
Yeah.
in this decision making, and that is a way I think that millennials and Gen Zers,
Mhm.
are shown that we are
Yeah.
valued. Whereas Gen Xers, it's like, you don't have to be valued because you got a job.
Yes.
So, like, your value is in the money that you are paid.
Yes.
And doesn't matter if you're not paid as much as you should be paid or,
You got money,
all this
period.
other stuff. Right.
Yeah.
It's a job. The contract that you are in is you do the work that they say you do, and in return, you get paid.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so racially, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Shoe, but racially, I've had some experiences, particularly being a Black person from the North coming to the South
Mhm.
and navigating the generational differences of what Black Southerners who are of a generation or 2 ahead of me,
Mm.
what their expectations are in the workplace, not only of themselves, but of others and of Black women in particular, um, versus, you know, other people, even white people.
Right.
Like, it's been a very I think there it can be difficult to navigate the generational differences within
Right.
people of color who are like, "Well, I had to work this hard to prove myself. Like, I had to jump through the hoops. I had to be initiated, and so you have to too.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna step in and, support you until you've shown me,
You're worth it.
just like my predecessor made me show them, like, what you're made of." Have you had those types of experiences?
So I actually have not. I will say
Mm,
that a majority of my work experience, I have not. I've been the only, if not maybe one of three women of
mm,
color in my department. I will say that the not where I am now, where I was before I used to work. I'll drop that name, John Hancock. My boss, he was a Cape Verdean man, um, and he was on the leadership team. And what I do appreciate about him was that he actually did the opposite of that, where he always spoke about, listen, it's us. We just for us to keep up, we got to be two steps ahead, and we're still catching up. So he was always trying to remind me, not necessarily in the, well, I had to work and bust my ass to get here. You do too. He would help me to at times remind me, like, look, there ain't that many of us over here. You got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's, you know. And I was the type of person, not I wasn't a rebel in the sense of like pushing back, but I'm gonna show up to work who I am. So I love to switch my wigs around. I'd come in with pink hair at times. I'd have different color hair, and he'd be like, let's have a conversation about this because and he was
a mentorship
a
conversation.
mentorship. I called him my work papa because he was definitely a
Mhm.
early Gen X, where he would, at times remind me like, look, we know you're a great employee, but we need you to look the part.
Right.
And it stuck to me because also of having that Haitian culture and background, I was raised, and to this day, I'm still this way, and I'm this way with my son too. If we're going somewhere, you are dressed to the T. I don't care if
Mm.
it's a casual event. You're not going to be casual. We don't know what casual means. Like, we're casual going to the gym. Okay, great. Like, but if I am invited to an event, like if we're going out to dinner, I am dressed to the T. As it's been embedded in me. So, to this day, I
Mm.
go to work. I'm always in heels. You will not see me wearing pants.
Mm.
I'm always in tights. Like I
Really?
am,
Oh my
I
goodness.
am.
Old school.
If I wear pants, it's because it's really cold because we are in New England, and everybody at work will notice, and they're like, "Shoes and pants, are you feeling okay?" And I'm like, "It's 0 degrees outside." Okay, yes, but I am
Wow.
very traditional in that sense, and I think it's not. I don't like to say the word fear, but there is a little bit of fear in there because some. And his name was Manny. I love Manny. And I still keep in touch with him till this day because, like you said, it was a mentorship relationship where granted we can be the best employee, and I think this also plays in the imposters syndrome, where I know I'm better than Mary, Sandy, and Jen, who comes to work when they want to with coffee, Dunkin' Donuts coffee. They got a meeting at 9 o'clock, they're rolling in at 9:15 with their breakfast in their hand. Mind you, I've been at the meeting since 8:45 making sure everything works. I i need to make sure I look a certain way because you will be overlooked. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think. I can't remember who exactly. Oh, it was a friend of mine. This wasn't even work related, but it plays into me thinking about how we are viewed. A situation happened with her son, and she's expressing it to me what's going on, and she's just very angry and very aggressive in her tone. And the first thing in my mind was, girl, no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to pay attention to you
Mm.
because right now you are feeding angry black women.
Yeah.
And if you are, and it was her son was supposed to do a track meet and he got overlooked, and there was something that happened that he didn't end up running. And she was just fuming and going off. And I'm just like, I need you to calm down. Like I was talking to my son, I need you to find your calm body. Because if you because if you go into this in front of all these white folks, because it was nationals, and start yelling and
Mhm.
screaming, they don't even see a mom anymore. They don't see that they did anything wrong. You're an angry black ghetto woman yelling and screaming that her son didn't get a fair chance. Whatever you're at whatever point you're trying to throw across, it's not going to be received. And I see that at work too. Of course, being a woman of color, there are many things that happen where I know I get overlooked. I can push back, but then that little voice in my head goes, "You got to pick your words wisely." I was like, because at the end of the day, if Christina comes over here cussing and screaming and very angry, they're just gonna be like, Christina had a rough day. But if Shou come over here in this room, buck wild, not even as loud as Christina, it's gonna be like, oh my God, she has anger problems. Like, are we safe around her? Can we have her here? Is she mentally stable? Can we keep her going? So I've always been big on just how I look and how I come off, and it sucks because it shouldn't be that way. It's not equal, but it's kind of like, well, how do we go past that? Like, how do we get over that?
Yeah, and I think for us, women of color in particularly, but also men of color, it this is a tool that we use, is the dressing the part, speaking the part, the code switching, the assimilation,
Hmm.
the things that we need to do, because if we show up any differently, we may be written off.
Yep.
And I mean, similarly to you, the one space where, like, I was traditional was in courtrooms.
Okay.
I couldn't, like, I can't not wear a suit to court.
Yeah.
I have friends who can wear, like, blazer and pants or a skirt to court, and I can wear a suit. It doesn't have to be a skirt, but, like, it has to be a matching suit
Right.
with a nice top and heels. Um, but you know, it's I've had too many experiences of my role being
Right.
questioned, because I simply just wasn't white. Or maybe because I was young,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't think that I held the professional position,
Yeah.
that I actually held.
Yeah.
And so I do think there's a lot to be said for dressing the part, and I try and reframe it some too in my head so that I don't feel as much like it's assimilation, but more of like a confidence thing, and that is that, like, I also feel the most powerful in a suit.
Girl. Speak on
So,
it.
not only will I wear a suit, but I have a power perfume. It's Alien by what's his name?
Oh, I got to
Thierry
go look it.
Mugler or whatever.
Mm.
Yep. So I look it, I smell it, and that's just what I do when I'm going to court to feel my most confident and powerful self.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel my most confident and powerful self in sweatpants,
I'm
like, or in jeans if everybody else is in a different kind of attire.
yeah.
Then I feel
Yeah.
self-conscious.
You start looking around.
So I Right, I think that the older generations really do care
Hmm.
about our success. It's just that there's a bit of reinforcement of the system as it
Yeah.
is, where I think our generations are, like millennial and Gen Z, are really trying to change the
Yeah.
system, to change the perception of what we have to look like to go to work,
Yeah.
or what we have to sound like to go to work, or, tattoos is a big one.
Yeah.
Whether or not to have tattoos and to have visible tattoos.
Yes.
Hair color and
Ooh,
piercings, also big one.
you're
And
speaking to me right
right,
now. I gotta rub my chest because these are everything.
right.
Growing up, I was told to keep in mind. Going on interviews, I remember I would have my hair in braids, and I know I had an interview coming up. I would take my hair out. I'm taking my braids out because I'm like, nope, I can't have braids going to an interview. Nope, I have tattoos. I specifically have all of my tattoos in places I know that for work can be concealed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we just we close in, and I wanted to speak on a point where too in appearance, and I this is a con on my end because I do play too much on the appearance look, but like I said, I think it was just embedded in me, and I'm trying to work on not caring. The Oh my gosh, it's a documentary that just came out on Netflix about Boston, and it was a mistaken murder that happened where, well, actually, it wasn't mistaken. They the oh my gosh, a pregnant woman was killed in Mission Hill. The husband said it was a black man who did it. This man was in jail for the longest time. Ended up not being
Mm.
him. He was released. Long story short, but they released him, and the Netflix did a documentary on it. And the mayor, the now mayor, issued an apology to the family.
Oh, right. And she's
And
Asian,
she's
right?
Asian, yes. So many things that we don't like about this story because I'm asking because I am very ignorant in certain things, but this also happened in 1986 or even older than that.
Mm.
So we are in 2024. I think the apology was 2023. So you have the mayor who's an Asian woman apologizing in 2023 for something that happened in the 1980s where up until now we've had white men be the mayor. So this
Mm-hmm.
apology could have happened when a white man was in office. That didn't happen. But
Mm-hmm.
where the old school Haitian, as everybody likes to make fun of me saying, came in was when they had the press conference and the family came, and I'm looking at the attire of the family. Like that's immediately where my eyes went. I know, girl. I got upset with myself for being as mad as I got, but
Oh,
it was the
Lord.
Haitian in me. Like I was like, nobody wanted to put on a button up. Nobody wanted to, not one human, no one. Are we really at a press conference with the mayor in jeans and hoodies and like,
Girl, that's what you took from this press
yes,
conference?
it's I listen, guys, I'm being so transparent and I will tell you that I have my internal battle that I go with this. Like I appreciate like that there was an apology said. Yes, I know. And there was a lot of devastation that happened, but I'm looking at y'all like, guys, not one person, not like, but that was the Haitian in me. So like that's what I say when it's embedded in me. Like you gotta in my to me, and maybe and like you said, the Gen Zs and a majority of our generation, we're trying to fight against that, where it shouldn't matter what I look like, but it does. It does. Like
Mm-hmm.
where it's still a work in progress, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, because to me, and like I said, it's the very old school. I immediately said, no one's listening, no one like these
Mm-hmm.
white folks, sorry. These white folks are in the room saying, "Well, why wouldn't we blame you? Why wouldn't we automatically look at how you're dressed, look at what you're wearing? Why wouldn't we just immediately assume that you were part of it?" And I hate myself for saying it, but I think it's just like what was ingrained in us growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I really look, I need to Google these people and see what they were wearing
Girl.
because, like, in my mind, it's kind of like we,
Mhm.
all people, deserve to just be seen as who we
Mhm.
are, regardless of what we wear.
Absolutely.
But obviously, that's not
It's not where we are. We're not there
reality,
yet.
right? Really, in any
Right.
space. I mean, our appearance, what do they say? The first 3 seconds, or the first 7 seconds, or something, some insanely short amount of
Yes.
time. Like our first impressions matter,
Yes.
and what's going to be taken in with your first impression,
How you
what you
look.
look like, what you're wearing, skin color, that type of stuff. And so it's but it's interesting because in my mind, I'm like, them people have earned the right to wear whatever they want to wear
Absolutely.
up on this platform. Shoot, they could be up here in towels if they want to be up here in towels.
Girl,
They
in a
still
whole
deserve,
bathrobe with rollers on. Do what you
right,
gotta do, but
right.
I, however, was
But
judging. I'm
obviously,
sorry.
yes, like it's the same thing when we have when people are interviewed on the news.
Right.
Like there are some of us who are like, look, I'm gonna go to sleep with a bra on because I don't want my house to burn down or
Child.
something, and then I gotta go outside and talk on the news and not have a bra on.
That's what my mama used to say to me. She'd be like, listen, make sure you
Yeah.
got clean underwear on. Make sure your undergarments are always clean because you don't want something to happen to you. And then the people in the ambulance gonna see that you ain't got no, you walking around with dirty drawers. Like that was just That was the mindset that, but once again, y'all, I'm telling y'all, it old school hate. My mind, I don't even think she a Gen X. It's whoever came before the Gen X's, like those, them folk,
Are
blame
those the
them.
boomers?
Probably. She was born in
Oh
49.
man.
My mama was 49.
Oh
My
my
father was
gosh.
born in 57. Blame them because they have, and pray for my child because that's still in me, as you can see in 2024. I'm
Yes.
judging people for what they have on. If you come into an interview without a suit on, I'm judging you. I'm sorry.
So, but how much do you think that is you liking fashion versus you and your expectations that like you in order for us to be heard, we need to look good?
Honestly, I would say it's probably 35-40% fashion because I think because I grew up, like my parents threw me in a predominantly white high school, and
Mhm.
I was always overlooked. Like, granted, we all wore uniform, but I've been overlooked for so much in, like, for so many years in my life that I want to make sure that doesn't ever continue to happen to me or happen to my children. So I feel like what you look like and how you speak and how you just present yourself is so important. And I know that it's not right, and the world shouldn't be like that. But like you said, the truth of it is, this is just where we are. This is how we're living.
Mhm.
And when you are a person of color, you are automatically, you already knocked down a couple notches, like off rip. I will say, like, even in looking at schools, for my son, we found this one school, and it's called Roxbury Roots, and they were explaining their mission statement, and I immediately fell in love with it because they spoke about, I think it's called an Afrocentric led education, where,
Oh.
girl, I'm probably saying it
Okay,
wrong,
Boston.
and they were saying how, they base their morals on African culture and folklore and culture, because the past couple of decades, our education system is Eurocentric base, where people of color were pretty much taught that we were insignificant to the history of America, of the world. And that's not the
Yep,
truth.
yep.
So they really focus on, empowering children and making them understand that you play a very big role here. Let me tell you, Black History Month, I went and bought all these empowerment shirts. I only started with one a week because I don't want to overwhelm the white folks at work. So once a week, I have my, like, I think last week I had my shirt had a list of all the Black inventors, and it said we would not have
Mm.
this without this person, and it said the invention, the person, the year, and then of course, this one, like, lady, "Oh, do you have McCoy on there?" I get it, history. Black people. Thank you, great. But same thing with my son. Like, I bought him a bunch of shirts every week. He's wearing something to commemorate Black history. I don't remember my point, but oh, the school. But it's true. Like, we were taught to think that we need to catch up. We
Yeah.
we need to be on their level, and the reality of it is we are already surpassed the level of our counterparts, but we were made to feel the opposite. So I kind of feel like we got to figure out how to get our power back, and part of that is in your appearance. We were kings and queens, guys. We still are kings and
Yeah.
queens, and we've been made to feel like that's not we don't have a seat at the table. So we got to find a way to kind of get that power back, and we can't get that power back in sweatpants, y'all. Not yet. Let's get that power, and then we can chill in our sweatpants. That's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that, and I'm reminded of just Gen Zs. So, okay, I worked at the last job that I had, I found myself one of the older people, which is crazy. Crazy. Because at this point, I'm 36.
girl,
How?
girl,
But I'm working
we
with
th-
21-year-olds.
we there, we there.
Man,
I know,
please. So, one of my closer friends at this workplace, I don't know, maybe she's like 24, 20. I don't know how old this girl is because I'm looking at her like a grown woman, but clearly she just barely left teenage years.
child.
And
Still wet
so,
behind the
sh
ears.
right. And, she's looking for a new job, and we're talking about what to do if she applies for one job that is like her second pick
Hmm.
job, and she's offered that job.
Hmm.
What does she do if her first pick job then reaches out to her wanting to hire her? So my old school millennial mind, I'm like, well, clearly you can't leave that job. Like you took the job. You
You
need to commit
you
to the
gotta
job.
we're here or there. Yep. Yep.
And she's like, "But why?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, but
There go
why?"
that damn why. There go that damn why.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean, but
'Cause you
why?
said
Like,
yes.
because you
That's it. I got nothing else.
because you said yes. Right. And she's like, "No, no. Definitely if my first pick calls me, I'm just gonna jump ship to the next and I'll just not put it on my resume at all. Like if I've only worked for this place for 3 weeks, I'm just gonna not put it on my resume."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, that would be smart. Don't put on your resume that you've only been there for 3 weeks." But like in my mind, I'm like the travesty of job hopping.
Oh my god.
Um, but since that time, so this was maybe a little more than a year or maybe a year ago
Yeah.
now, and since that time, I've had more and more conversations with people of varying generations about work. And it's like, these folks don't
No,
care. These Gen Zers, I mean, like you were saying at the outset, giving them their dues,
they
they
bouncing.
they are the prize. Okay. And so if like I love the sense of like
Yeah.
ownership of over the labor.
Yeah.
So, like, they will go find something else.
Child.
They will make their dollars on YouTube.
Ma'am.
They will do the things that they need to do to not be in an environment that they don't wanna be in.
Girl. Ain't whew,
And it's like all of us out here, all of us older
crying.
people are like, "Well."
Crying at the desk.
Right.
I hate it here. I don't wanna be
And we're
here.
talking about these Gen Zs as if, like, they're entitled, they
They not crying though.
don't have any kind of like charisma or
Mm-mm.
whatever. Like there's no sense of loyalty in Gen Z,
Girl.
blah, 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 blah. And why? Because we had to go through all those
Mhm.
things. So like we think that it's the exact same thing with us and the generation before, the Gen X's.
Yeah.
Like w- we should be embracing, like nobody should be treated like shit.
No, at
We
all.
should all be valued for the work that we provide.
Yeah,
We should all be able to work in our top choice environments if we want to, and then take a risk and leave for the top choice
girl.
job. Because look, these employers don't care about us.
We're
We are their
at will.
labor.
At will.
Right. We're an at will state too.
Mhm.
Like, so if we are gonna have to be in this rat race and be, constantly trying to move up the scale, move
Girl.
up the ladder, make more money so that we can afford all these new taxes, which
Mhm.
I'm not against taxes, but I'm just saying the taxes are expensive.
Child.
Um, like if we need to be looking out for
We
ourselves,
do.
and that's what I get from Gen Z is they looking out for
They
themselves.
they are. They're setting that, and it's funny. I was literally just having this conversation with one of my cousins, and she was telling me about, she doesn't like where she is at work, and she if things don't go the way she needs it to go at this next evaluation, she's gonna start looking. And I'm just like her saying that gave me anxiety, because we're both having anxiety on the phone, because I'm just like, girl, the process of having to interview for a job, then having to figure out if you're gonna get it, because nowadays, if you haven't known, and I don't know how it was in the past in other states, but jobs don't even post their salaries anymore, what you're going to get paid. Like when you look at job postings,
Mm.
they used to say, oh, this position goes for this amount. They don't even put that anymore. And I'm like, so now you got to negotiate your price, and you got to, work hard to make, like, prove to them that you can even have that salary. And they got people that do this like on a yearly basis. Every year they in a new position, because from what I've learned, like, research has shown, that's really how you're gonna make more money, is to bounce around from different job, because you just keep upping your value. And I'm just like, who got that type of energy? So you mean I got to start a job, make friends at work, build a whole new environment, learn your system, then go interview, find somewhere else, and then do that again next year? I can't. I don't have
I'm
pass
exhausted.
up. I'm tired hearing about it.
That's why they gotta be Gen Z because 'cause they're young.
they,
They still got the
they got the
energy. Ain't got no
juice.
kids, maybe.
they,
Look,
they got the juice for
they
it.
can still order out every single night because they only spending money on themselves.
If you see my resume, like, and I remember when I went to a temp agency at one point, because I actually quit. When did I quit once without having a backup. That's how sick and tired I got about it. And you know what? We can share this story, because I do feel
And
like,
that's like a big ass deal.
and I am a loyal to the T type of person. Like, I will ride for my job. I have been at, I think the shortest amount of time that I've been at a real job is probably 4 or 5 years. And then I'll go
Mhm.
somewhere else. So I remember I quit this job because I was the last person in my role. It was like we were case managers, and then everybody, you would be a case manager for a certain amount of time. Then you became like a whatever that title was, case specialist, which was the same thing as a case manager, but it's like, oh,
A
you've been
super case
like a
manager.
super case manager. And I remember like everybody who came on with me at this point had already been promoted. And this is the same job where I told you I was coming in at like 6 a.m. and like leaving at 11 p.m. And I'm just like,
Mm.
I'm busting my ass. Like, why haven't I been promoted yet? And then so when I finally, they promoted, and I at this point in hindsight, I feel like I was promoted because everybody who was on the next round to get promoted had got hired after me. And so they were like, "We gonna lose her if we don't hire her." And
Just don't look
she
good.
she already it don't look right, and she already like I said, I'm working double the amount of time, not getting paid as everybody else. So they're like, "We gonna keep her. We ain't got to pay her that much. She over here busting her ass for us. Like, why even rock the boat?" And so what happened is what they would do is you would come into your desk or your cubicle, and there'd be a card on your desk. So I see my card and I'm like, oh yeah, I got my promotion. I open the card and it's like, oh, congratulations, you've been promoted. But I noticed the card was green. It was lime green. And I noticed that my name was on a post-it on the card.
What?
And I'm like, well, this is odd. So
So they could have gave that card to anybody.
I took no, girl, Whitney, hold on. I'm gonna need you to hold on to your chair for this one. I took the post-it off, and it was somebody else's name that was written and crossed off, and they put my name over it. When I tell you, in that exact moment, I literally said, "Fuck this shit." And I emailed the supervisor, like the my supervisor, and said, "This is my 2 weeks." And then he called me into his office and he was like, and mind you, it's like 7:30 in the morning at this point because he finally came in. And he's like, well, he had showed up early. And then he was like, well, did you find another job? I said, no. He was like, well, why are you leaving? And I showed him the card. And he's like, I'm sure she didn't even mean it like that. I'm sure it's just a mistake. You mean to tell me I'm not worth a $2 card, that she couldn't just go buy another card and write my name on it? She put it on a post-it as if I couldn't put two and two together to take the post-it off. Clearly I'm speaking of a white woman and everybody else was white. I was at this job, I was the only black woman working. And I'm
Mm.
like, you don't even see how it looks. Like you are so like racially blind, I guess at this point I
Mhm.
can say that you don't even see how this looks from many perspectives.
Mhm.
And he tells me, he was like, I just think about it. I would feel much better if you came to me and told me that you found another job and that's why you were leaving. I was like, but I didn't. And I don't care about how you feel.
Sorry. Right, sorry you don't feel good about
I'm
this.
sorry you don't feel good that you have shitty ass workers who don't know how to work, how to treat their subordinates. I hate that word, but whatever. Or their direct reports. Like, you want me to make you feel better because y'all are being racist. Sorry, it is what it is.
Wow.
I don't even know why I shared that. I'm trying to
That's
remember why I shared that story. There was
I don't
I
know,
was
but
on
that's
somewhere.
crazy.
Post it.
That's crazy.
You put my name on a post it.
I don't know what you were saying.
You
I got too sucked into this
Oh
story.
yes, that's what I was talking about. So
Um,
when I went, that was from that job. That was the first time I ever quit without having a backup. And I remember
mm,
going to a temp, no, using a staffing agency, and the lady looking at my resume. The first thing she said to me was, "It's very odd for someone your age." I think at that point I was late 20s. She was like, "It's very odd for someone your age to have been at companies for as long as you're at." And I'm like, huh? What do you mean? She's like, mostly people are like 1 to 2 years and they go to different places. And I'm like, no, child, listen, I get very comfortable where I am. If I like my job, I like my job. Y'all treat me right. I'm going to be here. Like, I'm that type of employee. Plus, we were always told too, and this could be a lie, you can correct me, that your resume should be one page. Anything,
yeah, no, that's what I was told.
girl, these resumes I've been
Yeah.
seeing these days, 2, 3 pages long. Who's reading that? Who's reading all of that? Like,
Not me. Like, I think after a certain level in your career, it's expected that it's more than 1 page,
right.
but, like, I think if you're Gen Z, you should have
One
one
page.
page.
One page, please.
So
please.
I don't know, you got to cut off some of them jobs, just pick the most important
You don't
jobs that
gotta
you
put
want.
McDonald's on there, you don't gotta put the Dollar Tree on there unless you was a manager.
Nope, any job that you had less than, I would say, shoot,
6
6
months.
months, I don't even wanna know about, but, like,
It wasn't a job, it was a hobby. It was a summer
that was a
hobby. Like,
stopover.
cut it out. It
Please,
was
you
a
just needed some
stopover.
spending money for Christmas.
Okay.
Like,
You were saving up for that trip. That's it. That's it.
mhm,
No, but it's
mhm.
wild to think back on. And I ain't even, I mean, I'm 37. I don't even think I've have that much experience. But when you sit back and you look at all of the jobs that you've had and all the experiences that you've encountered, whether it was racially or even just professionally, you're just like, I done been through a lot. And I think
Mhm.
that helps now with our understanding of, as much as I do drag the Gen Zs for feeling entitled, they are onto something. They really are. Like, no, I'm not doing it. Like I think I finally come to the
Right.
point where even with now, I have to be in the office 3 days a week, but everybody at my job, they understand my son is my priority. So I need to leave here by 3:30 so I can get to daycare on time. And even now, I'm thinking about, okay, when he goes to school, these schools ain't trying to give nobody no regular hours. School, one of the schools we were looking at was 8:20 to 2:45. So when am I supposed to work? So now I gotta try to already in my brain, mind you, he's not gonna be going to school till September 2025, but I'm already racking in my brain because imposter syndrome. I tell everybody, oh my God, I'm replaceable. They're gonna, find somebody else to replace me. I'm like, I got to figure out how I can present to them to let me be fully remote so that I don't have a problem picking up my son. Or even I'll take it one step further, me having to go on maternity leave. Granted, I know I'm an amazing employee. I know my worth. Everybody since I was an admin, and I recently got into the position that I'm in now at general and as legal operations. But as an admin, I made sure to put my footmark, and everybody knew my value. So I'm that person that everybody goes to for anything. I can't figure this out, or can you help me do this? I'm the fixer. I'm the go-to person. But as of recently, since we're on baby number two, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go on maternity leave. What if whoever my replacement shows to be better than me? What if they give somebody my position? But I
Girl,
know, but
please.
I have those thoughts, and then anxiety comes in. You know what I mean? Because we have this thing in our mind, like someone they're gonna find someone better than me. No, they're not.
Mhm.
No, they're not. And even if they do, by law, they can't fire you while you're on maternity leave. Like one of my really close friends at work who I said that to, and she was like, first of all, I don't even know why you're thinking about that. Like legally, if it makes you feel any better, because she works in HR, she's like, legally, that can't happen. I'm like, okay, well, still, like, I don't need nobody coming in trying to take my job from me. And then I come back and it's like, this person did it better. Well, go find them. Give me my severance package. Like,
Yeah, you'll be fine.
I know.
You'll be fine. Like, and you might even decide after the second baby comes that this isn't the right position for you anymore anyways. You never know. Like, things, I think we need to be flexible, because things can change so quickly,
Yeah.
our interests can change, what's happening in our families can
Yep.
change, and I'll say one of the things that I'm most grateful for, I switched from one job to another job, literally, was it before Royce was, it was right before Royce was born. Was I pregnant? I must have been pregnant. No, 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 no. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember when it was. Anyways, so Royce, my second born, needed a lot of medical support.
Right.
Like there was lots and lots of appointments, there was lots of stuff, and I had switched from a job where we were counting our time down to 5-minute intervals.
Mm,
Like, we had time sheets like that,
child.
because we were a nonprofit that was grant
Okay.
funded, so we
Yep.
had to bill all of our time. We had very strict rules on, like, leave and sick leave
Mhm.
and all of this stuff. I had moved to a job that had unlimited leave.
Ooh,
So there were, like, no sick leaves, no grouping of anything.
just
There was
go.
no counting your hours.
Ooh,
It was unlimited leave.
child.
And,
They hiring?
so I got to go to all the appointments, you know?
Yeah. I'm like,
And it was
yeah,
amazing, like, not having to worry about, because I have heard horror stories of people, like, needing to ask their colleagues for, like, sick leave from the sick leave bank
yeah,
situation.
yeah.
And that would have had to been a situation with Royce because of all of the appointments and
Yeah.
everything. And so I just say that to say we never know what we need, a week from now.
Yeah.
And so being flexible and not, your identity is not this job.
Right. At all. At all. And you saying that reminds me of, so I follow this woman called I think her on Instagram is Black Super Black Mamas or Black Super Mamas. I love her to death. But she had a very transparent post the other day, and she's doing amazing on social media, and I think she didn't necessarily say what her job was, but she had a transparent post the other day, and she was actually crying, but she clarified that she wasn't crying because she was sad, she was crying because she was frustrated, where she was let go from her job. And literally say, and in my head I'm going, how could they let you go? Like, I see your social media, like you have hundreds and thousands of followers on your own, so I can imagine what you're doing for work. And they were pretty much saying that she wasn't hitting what they wanted for their social media platform. And she's like, I'm a Black woman, I walked into this room with 3 white men and they're telling me I'm not doing a good enough job. And she's like, so they let me go
Mm.
on that. And I immediately, like, something in my brain snapped where I was just like, it really don't matter who you are. And if
Mm-mm.
you do ever get into the position where you are let go, sometimes, of course, after you have your moment of, oh my God, this is really happening, I think there are times, if you are spiritual, I am, to turn and be like, God took me out of this. What's next?
Mhm.
I mean, you might not get there immediately, because I know, if, God forbid, if I was to lose my job, I'd be like, oh my God, who's going to pay the bills? But at the end of the day, we have to finally get into that mindset of, I've been taken out of this position for a reason. I don't belong here. And I think that's where the Gen Zs thrive. They
Mm.
they are very well in tune with the, I don't need this. This isn't for me. What's next?
Mhm.
And maybe it is
Right.
because they ain't got no kids and they still living with their parents, so they don't have no real bills. Like, I remember me in my 20s, like, what? What's a mortgage? Like, what's a car note? I can do what I want. But I think if we let go of that fear and that mindset of thinking that we have to not necessarily commit, but we have to give this job more importance than our own life and happiness and sanity. We have to learn to let that go. And I'm saying we because I am definitely one of those people where
Yeah.
I will wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes to get through emails. And I'm like, why? Because nobody else is doing
Yep.
this. Nobody is
Yep.
online right now. I've had bosses come back to me at 9 o'clock and say, why were you on computer at 4 a.m.? And I'm like,
Mhm.
because you said you wanted this by 8. And I have a toddler in my house who takes my weekends from me. So you told me Friday at 3
Right. Which
p.m.
one is it?
What do you want? You encourage work-life balance, and yet you give me a whole list of things to do that in an a realistic time frame. You got to tell me
Yeah.
what's, let's figure it out. But I think it's on us to kind of set those boundaries. So maybe I will talk to some more Gen Zs and get that confidence, because they got it. They teaching
Yeah.
us. We got to let go
For
of
sure.
the Gen X. I appreciate their work ethic. I think they
Yeah.
showed us hard work and what that looks like and what that will get you. Gen Zs teach us to value who we are coming in, as opposed to who we can become while we're there. Oh, child, I like that. Oh, look at that. But it's true though, because if you and we gotta find a way to be the medium, because we are exactly in the middle of that. So we gotta find a way of, how do we make those two connect, because they
Mhm.
not listening to each other. We got to play the middle person between the Gen Zs and the Gen Xs. Because granted, as much as we're like, oh, then Gen Zs don't listen, them Gen X be like, oh, them kids, somebody get them kids. So we got to be the ones to get them kids, but get the old folks together, and then we all kind of just sit and kumbaya, because we honestly can learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Well, thank you so much for joining
of
us. Before we,
course.
sign off,
Yes, ma'am.
let me know what's your affirmation or your mantra for this season? What are you telling
I
yourself?
actually have it written up right here on my whiteboard. I went and bought a whiteboard. It is, I am a magnet to all things good for me. I am a magnet to luck and abundance. I have the power to attract and accomplish anything. And then I end it in
Wow.
Jesus' name, amen. It's right here on my board
Wow.
every morning, and I have my 2-year-old saying
Love
it with
it.
me because we gotta believe it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that.
Thank you.
And I also like the luck part because I think a big part of this life is that sometimes it is just luck,
Yes.
and that's okay.
That's okay. And actually, my second one, which is I think is very plays a very powerful role that we don't do enough with ourselves. I forgive myself for my mistakes because I don't think that we
Mm,
are gracious enough with ourselves. And it's because I
mhm.
saw a post too that was just like, yeah, we thrive. We get so excited about the end goal, but can you just sit back and realize everything you've already accomplished before you even get to this destination? And I don't think we do that. I think we focus so much on
Mm-mm.
all the ways we fucked up instead of saying, okay, well, let's talk about how we came from the fuck ups, like where you are
Right,
today versus 10
right.
years ago.
The episode I was recording an episode earlier today, with Marlon Bacot and Asher Wright, and
Yes, I love
we were
Asher.
talking about yes, I know. We were talking about, for both of them, they like to talk about life's traumas turning into
Mm-hmm.
your treasures.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think like that framework really does help us just find gratitude
Yes.
for where we've
Yeah.
come and focus less on, like, this bad thing or I'm not living up to XYZ
Yep.
and more on, "No, I went through this, like,
Mm-hmm.
I got through this,
Mm-hmm.
and now because I got through this, like, this is the perspective that I have, or these are the skills that I have," or,
Absolutely.
whatever it may be, so,
Yes.
yeah,
I love
awesome. Well,
that.
thank you so much. Tell us where we
Thank
can
you.
find you.
Well, you can find me on social media. Honestly, if you go to my IG, you can click on the link and I have a link tree and it'll take you everywhere. But my social media is a mouthful. Get ready. It is I underscore am underscore is Shou Experience. SHOUXEP. Oh, see, I'm already
Mm-mm.
messing it up. I don't mess
XP.
XP, RIENCE. Oh Lord Jesus. See, I told you it was a mouthful. That's why I
Girl,
even messed it up.
you
I
might
got it
need
on
to
my
rename
shirt.
that.
I got it right here on my shirt. Make sure when you do a video part, it's right here. I should have just looked down.
Right now we are looking at Shoes
Yes.
boobs.
All right. You know what? Let me say it again. You can find me on social media. It is I underscore am underscore SHOUXPERIENCE. Shoe
Got
Experience.
it.
Mind you, she was 18 at the time, gave me the name. I didn't even make it up. I was like, this is amazing. Let's do that. Because I am an experience all of on its own.
Yeah,
Guys.
yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. I
Alright.
appreciate it. This was a really
Thank you,
great
Shu.
conversation. And I'll
And
have you.
make sure that you go listen to Shu's podcast, Shou Talks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.